We have a ton of massive news in this video. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss it. But we're going to kick things off with Mickie James. Guys, Mickie James is teasing retirement. I don't know what's happening here. Impact is kind of playing into it as well on social media. But essentially what has happened is somebody tweeted Mickie James on Twitter about being in the women's tag team tournament. And Mickie James responded by saying, "No, I feel I'm done in wrestling." And then, of course, what's really interesting is Impact posted a little video on Twitter with the caption, "Going home, ? What's next for Mickie James?" And then, of course, Nick Aldis, he tweeted out something about MJ, being Mickie James, dropping a bombshell and then plugging our WWE Raw watch along. So I don't know what is happening here. Is this a storyline? Is this legit? I don't know what to expect, but Mickie James, obviously incredible. She did some great things being an Impact and NWA, especially after her WWE release. And then one of the cool things was when she came back to WWE in the Royal Rumble with the Knockouts Championship. I don't care what anybody says. That was just a really cool moment, and I appreciated that. AEW All Out was rumored to be a 2-night event. And what's actually really funny is Dustin Rhodes publicly mentioned something that he heard about AEW doing 2-night pay-per-views. And, you know, Tony Khan basically came out today and debunked the entire thing. He said it was never something that was serious. And look, here's the thing. The idea of 2-day pay-per-views for AEW could potentially work because they only have 4 pay-per-views a year. But I think I'm learning my lesson from WrestleMania. WrestleMania being 2 nights, it's a great business move for WWE, but as a fan, if I'm going to travel, if I'm going to go to Los Angeles, I don't want to be wasting 2 days of my trip just watching wrestling. I want to go experience some of the things I may not have been able to experience beforehand. And I think, you know, with these pay-per-views being so incredibly long, 2 nights is just not worth it. Now, with that being said, even though Tony Khan has debunked this idea, what I could see very well happening is Ring of Honor having a pay-per-view on like a Saturday and then AEW having a pay-per-view on a Sunday. That could make a lot of sense. 2 different companies, 2 different rosters, 2 different types of storylines, and both of them having a pay-per-view to feed off of each other. I would be stupid to tell you guys I don't like that idea. I always like the idea of NXT TakeOver taking place the day before, one of the big 4 or whatever it may be. So when NXT was doing pay-per-views on Saturdays, WWE was doing WrestleMania on a Sunday or whatever it was, whatever the pay-per-view was, I felt like that actually enhanced the overall weekend for wrestling. So if AEW and ROH wanted to do something like that, I'm totally cool with it. However, Tony Khan says that doesn't appear to be the case, at least as of now. So we'll kind of see how that goes. Speaking of Tony Khan, he did address the rumors of the unhappiness in AEW. And this past week, there's been a lot of talk about AEW wrestlers being unhappy. And all of this stemmed from Ringside News, basically just kind of putting out an article out there that they deemed as an exclusive where, there's been a lot of frustration with Tony Khan and the headsets for the commentators, changing last minute plans, and just there's people unhappy. And here's the thing. Tony Khan obviously already made some changes to the leadership of his company. He promoted some people. He brought in some new people. He has a team surrounded by him, which is something I've been asking for a very long time. I felt like that was very important. When Tony Khan was on Busted Open Radio, he actually addressed this. I'm sorry, it was a Superstar Crossover with Josh Martinez. He discussed the unhappiness in AEW, and he basically said they have a great crew. Everybody's happy with the shows they've put on. And, he kind of mentions the idea of bringing new people in. Communication is only going to get better because it could only be in so many places. He could only be in so many places at one time and talk to so many people at one time. He feels like there's a lot of camaraderie and momentum. He can't get everyone on the show. It is challenging in some ways when you have 3 hours of television. I get if you're looking at a competitor that has 7 hours of television, the people in that company are twice as likely to be on TV if you look at it that way. So I think it's very competitive for spots, but it also means people have to do the most to maximize the time they do get, wherever it is, whether it's on TV or streaming. I do think our TV shows and the participation we've had from fans and why we all feel so good this year is, he thinks the vibe is good, man. Tony Khan thinks things are going well. I feel like, of course, as the CEO and president of the company, he is going to do that. But I will tell you guys what I say every single time. Not everybody's going to love the company they work for. And it's not just professional wrestling. You could be working at a grocery store, a bank, cell phone store, Best Buy, pro wrestling company, you're not always going to love your job. There's going to be a million reasons for it. Your boss is not going to be perfect. So when people had issues with WWE, with Vince McMahon, I still expect some people to have issues in WWE with Triple H. And I think people are going to have issues in AEW as well, and that's normal. That's life. That's how it works, in my opinion. So therefore, Tony Khan is just doing what he's supposed to do and say things are fine, and that's kind of it. Guys, Kenny Omega is being reportedly he's coming back. And I find this to be very interesting because the timing of this all is very interesting. But obviously, AEW is doing the World Trios Championship tournament. And we all kind of knew that they were going to announce the titles when Kenny Omega was ready to come back. I believe that Kenny Omega will return tonight, August 10th, 2022. That's just my personal belief. However, Slice Wrestling also added to this news by basically saying that AEW officials are discussing for Kenny Omega to get involved in the AEW World Championship picture once again, and AEW is already discussing potential partners, including CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, Adam Cole, Andrade El Idolo, Malachi Black, and Claudio. Obviously, All Out is going to be the big focus is on the trios titles, but if Kenny Omega is going to be trying to compete for the World Championship, then I don't know if Kenny Omega will hold those trios titles, and that's going to be very interesting. Obviously, the idea of Kenny and Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson, and then of course there's the Elite. So you got you got Hangman Page and the Young Bucks, and then of course you have the Undisputed Era or Undisputed Elite, whatever you want to call them, Adam Cole, Bobby Fish, and Kyle O'Reilly. So there is obviously a lot of intrigue there, but Kenny Omega returning very soon should be expected. I think it's going to happen tonight. Tony Khan actually put out a tweet as well, basically telling you don't want to miss this episode. And the only reason why I think he would want to do that is if you have a major surprise without necessarily spoiling it, which could also mean MJF is returning. So it's really strange. Today, all of a sudden, Britt Baker posted an image on her story on Instagram. It was a picture of her, Shawn Spears, and MJF. And that was just a very random thing to do on a Wednesday. You know what day it is, right? But of course, with MJF, there are rumors that suggest, even though he hasn't been in contact with anybody, there are plans for him to come back to AEW. And there doesn't seem to be a situation where he's been released or he's out of contract or anything like that. So MJF could very well even return tonight as well. But of course, with AEW, you want to make sure that you keep MJF happy, because I feel like Triple H will try to come in and swoop in MJF the minute that he's available. You got to keep this guy happy. You got to pay this guy. Got to put him in big storylines, which is why it's really intriguing to hear the idea of Kenny Omega going for the World Championship again, because I feel like MJF, it's long overdue. He should have been holding that World Championship. We'll kind of see what happens. We'll see where they go about it, but the rumors are heating up about MJF returning to AEW pretty damn soon, and now Britt Baker is adding to the fuel. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below.